It gives me immense happiness, pleasure, and pride to introduce the next speaker for today, an erudite academician, Dr. Y.M. Jairaj sir, who is the Vice Chancellor of Pravara Institute of Medical Sciences, Loni. Warm welcome once again to you, sir. For this session, Dr. Jairaj sir would be addressing the medical education part of National Education Policy 2020. So I'm indeed blessed to introduce Dr. Y.M. Jairaj sir. He's completed his MSc from Karnataka University in 1974 and his PhD in medical microbiology from Gulbarga University. He has 42 plus years of PG teaching and research experience in microbiology and biotechnology. He has successfully guided many students for their doctoral degree and published more than 100 research papers in national and international journals since 1974. He has also served as the IQAC coordinator, NAC steering committee coordinator of Gulbarga University, special officer on duty for the quality assurance cell, Government of Karnataka, Bangalore. He has been the academic advisor for Dr. D.Y. Patil Pratisthan's group of institutions. Prior to joining Pravara Institute of Medical Sciences, he has served as the Pro Vice Chancellor of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth Deemed University, Pondicherry. He is serving as the Vice Chancellor of Pravara Institute of Medical Sciences, deemed to be University, Loni, since 2018. It gives me pleasure to inform you that he is the advisor on quality assurance in higher education, and he has successfully conducted more than 500 workshops on quality assurance and enhancement at state and national level. He has delivered theme-based lectures, keynote addresses, inaugural and valedictory addresses, invited lecture as well as chaired scientific sessions at 100 plus national seminars, symposia, workshops in Karnataka as well as other states in India. He is the assessor of National Assessment and Accreditation Council since 2002. With this brief introduction, gentlemen and ladies, I present to you Dr. Y.M. Jairaj sir. Welcome, sir, and over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Priva Rao, for the opportunity given to me to be one of the resource persons for this national webinar. And you have really titled it in a very proper perspective. I had used the word transformation. You have used the word changing face of education because of the National Education Policy 2020. First of all, my salutations to our founder, visionary leaders, Dr. Vital Rao V.K. Patil ji, Padma Shri Awardee, and Padma Bhushan, Dr. Balasaheb V.K. Patil ji, who have nurtured educational system at a remote place of Maharashtra, namely Loni, where it has become an educational hub of Maharashtra with all the schools and colleges from UG to KG to PG and PhD and all faculties under one roof, namely Pravara Education Society and Pravara Medical Trust. First of all, my salutations to you and thanks to the organizers for this opportunity. I also recognize the presence of Dr. N.R. Sheth, Vice Chancellor of GTU, for his wonderful presentation on the importance of technical education in the National Education Policy. I also wish to recognize the presence of Dr. Deepak from Rajkot, who will be speaking on another important topic on Indian languages. I also wish to congratulate the IQAC of the Pharmacy College for this initiative. I would like to share my slides now. Season greetings from our university, Pravara Institute of Medical Sciences, which has got a medical college, dental college, nursing college, physiotherapy college, Center for Social Medicine, and Center for Biotechnology, with more than 2,500 students. And we are contributing our might in producing healthcare professionals in all these disciplines of health science. Our indebtedness to all the visionary leaders, as I told you, Dr. Balasaheb V.K. Patil and Dr. Vital Rao V.K. Patil ji, and we are presently ably led by our Honorable Pro-Chancellor and President of Aurora Institute of Medical Sciences, Deemed University Trust, Dr. Rajendra V.K. Patil ji. With these few introductory remarks, let me say that I have been given the topic of healthcare education perspective in national education policy. I don't want to go into the details except by highlighting a few points. The importance is emphasis to multidisciplinary approach and autonomy to all institutions at all levels, participation of all participants, namely the government, private, public partnership, and also private enterprise, even companies, and the very important companies for the first time in India, foreign universities will be invited. Then the enhancement of expenditure of the GDP from 4% to 6%. That is almost doubling of the GDP that is expected as per the 2020 National Education Policy. Then gross enrollment ratio, as already told by the earlier speaker, will be aiming at 50% by 2035. I would like to spend 1 minute on this particular aspect because when I take up the professional education, this particular regulatory provision becomes very important. There was a speculation for the last 10 years that UGC, which is the apex regulatory body in India, will be replaced by a higher regulatory agency called HERA. Now it has become a reality. According to National Education Policy 2020, there will be a new education apex body called Higher Education Commission of India, HECI. It will be the topmost institution with all powers to control, regulate, and make policies as well as review the scenery of education in India. And it will have 4 vertices or 4 independent, standalone, but complementary and supplementary to each other institutions, or I should say the bodies. One is called the regulatory body, which is called National Higher Education Regulatory Council, where all the sectors, including ACT and all, will be coming under it, except medical and legal. Only medical and legal education system will be kept out of this NHERC, but they will come under HECI, that is Higher Education Commission of India. Then the second vertice is the Accreditation Council. Already we have got National Assessment and Accreditation Council at Bangalore, an apex body for assessment. But today it has taken the responsibility assessment. But as per this National Education Policy, it will be an apex body to regulate assessment and accreditation, but it will be assisted by number of agencies recognized by it throughout India. In other words, there will be sub-agencies or other councils under the umbrella of NEC. Then the third one is called Higher Education Grants Council. The present UGC will be renamed as Higher Education Grants Council. In other words, UGC will lose its regulatory provisions and will become only a funds disbursing authority. In other words, the present UGC, which is the apex body of higher education, will be replaced by HECI, and UGC will be renamed as HEGC. In other words, Higher Education Grants Council. And the last one is very, very important. All these days, UGC itself had all these powers, but now there is a specific council that's called General Education Council. This General Education Council is the one which sets the standards for education, whether it is general education or liberal education or professional education or technical education, and all the present bodies will be under it, and it will be ably assisted by National Higher Education Quality Framework and National Skill Quality Framework councils. So these are 2 agencies which help General Education Council. Next, the question would be, what will happen to the existing bodies like ICAR, Veterinary Council of India, NCTE, then Council of Architecture and others, even ACT. And according to National Education Policy, all of them will be converted as National Professional Standard Setting Bodies, PSSB. In other words, they will not be regulatory agencies, but they will be involved in quality framework with special reference to the standards of higher education, with special reference to curriculum design development and learning outcome and objectives. But there is no clarity on the status of Dental Council of India or Indian Nursing Council or Pharmacy Council of India. But the speculation is either they will be with medical fraternity, or it will be with the other existing councils merging with the national professional standard setting bodies. There is no clarity. That's what I want to say. Then National Medical Commission and Bar Council of India, which are already in existence as per the Parliamentary Act, they are going to continue to regulate the medical education and legal education in India. And there is one advisory body at the central level called Central Advisory Board on Education, and it will be strengthened further to ensure that whatever is required of 21st century will be addressed by it. Some of the important transformation that is expected out of this national education policy, when we speak of the professional education, technical education, is there will be no scope for mono-faculty universities or colleges. In other words, pharmacy college as a standalone college, medical college as a standalone college, or a medical university or a pharmacy university may not be functional from 2030. Only large multi-faculty disciplinary institutions and universities and colleges will be permitted. What the NEP 2020 envisages is, the university means it should have minimum of 3,000 plus students with around 300 plus staff members. So that means there should be a vibrant multi-faculty, multidisciplinary approach on the university campus, so the students will have more of creativity and innovative basis. And this is expected to be achieved by 2030. And only one nomenclature, as our sir has already told. But the important point is, at present you have got around 40,000 plus colleges and 800 to 1,000 plus universities. What this NEP says is, they expect around 15,000 multi-faculty institutions. Probably the purpose is they are going to go for what is known as fusion of the institutions rather than fission. For the last 50 years, what we saw was fission of the institutions into mono-faculty and mono discipline institutions, either university or a college. They would like to have multidisciplinary and multi-faculty institutions, around 15,000, which can be managed. Then, as the earlier speaker has already told, there will be three types of universities. One is a teaching university with main function of teaching. Second one is a main function of research, namely research university, which will be called as MERU. And as already stated, abolition of affiliating system is one of the cardinal features of this particular NEP. The reason is that the entire world doesn't have any system called affiliation system. It was a British legacy. Britishers themselves have left it, but we Indians are still following it. So by 2035, there will be no affiliated college system in India. All of them will become either autonomous colleges or they will become constituent colleges of an university. So this is a very, very important, significant milestone of 2020 NEP. As that means it will change the face of the higher education. Then the important dimension of this NEP is permission to foreign universities. For the last 20 years, we had a debate as to whether we should allow foreign universities to come. A lot of bills were passed. Bills were moved in Parliament also, but they did not see the light of the day. But this national education policy says that for the first time in India, foreign universities will be invited to establish their campuses with a rider that only standard 100 to 200 institutions only will be permitted to establish their institutions in India. Thus, India is likely to become a global educational hub. And there will be more emphasis to the MOUs between the universities of India and abroad in terms of academics, research, and extension. And our sir has already told the importance of academic bank of credits, because once you say curriculum is flexible, study anywhere, anytime, with a flexible time frame, nobody should be denied of certification. Hence, if a student wants to leave an institution by 1 year, you will get a certificate. If he leaves by 2 years, you will get a diploma, advanced diploma. And if he leaves by 3rd or 4th year, you will get a degree. In other words, whatever the credits that a candidate is earning, it will have a certification. And he can move from one institution to another institution, both digital mode as well as the distance mode or formal mode. Thus, credit transfer is going to be the reality. And the government is going to establish a bank called Academic Bank of Credits, so that a student can accumulate a credit and over the period of time, he can get a degree. Twinning program is going to be the reality, and the promotion of open distance digital learning along with the formal education. In fact, we had kept all these three as stepmother. We have seen them with stepmotherly attitude, but thanks to COVID's positive impact, we have to accept them as part and parcel of the education. Then creation of National Research Foundation has already been envisaged with 22,000 crores. I don't want to go into the details, but what is more important is thrust to need-based research, which leads to a sustainable development, whether it's health or agriculture or food or shelter or transport or education or trade or commerce, IT, BT, NT, energy. Particularly energy sector is going to have major focus. Energy, health, agriculture and shelter. They are going to have the major share in our national education policy. The reason is that ultimately sustainable development depends upon these aspects. And naturally, we are going to give importance to the resources and heritages of India, and the research on it is imminent. And the present funding bodies like ICMR, ICAR, DST, DBT, DOE, UGC, CSIR, and ISCHR, and others, they will continue as funding bodies in the specific sectors of higher education. The paradigm shift is, as I told you already, there will be no standalone professional colleges and professional institutions. Probably by 2030, we may not hear an institution as only pharmacy college, as a medical college, the dental college. It will be considered as a multi-faculty college or a university or a cluster of colleges. So there will be no standalone college or no standalone universities. That's, we'll be having a totally seesaw change in terms of the structure of the institutions at the ground level. And health profession education, now at present it is having separation of all pathies, but probably we may look for the unification of these pathies to address the wellness of human being as a holistic approach. Then use of technology. No doubt you are using technology, but you are using it as an optional means. But national education policy makes it as mandatory provision. Hence, they are going to establish a forum called National Education Technology Forum, an autonomous body which is going to develop IT tools, infrastructure and software which is required for higher education. A very, very significant development is National Digital Repository. All these days, the student will be carrying his marks card along with him, and for verification, the university is the agency. But this National Digital Repository will be an answer for any student either to retrieve his marks card or any agency who want to recruit a student to verify the marks card of a student and credentials with a single window system. This is a very, very novel approach of the higher education scenario in India, which is likely to come after the national education policy. The national virtual laboratories. In the era of COVID, now for the last 7 months, all of us are living in a virtual world. And we are no doubt teaching students online. But what about practicals? Have you thought of virtual laboratory concept? In medical colleges, there is what is known as a simulation laboratory or skill laboratory. Similarly, for all the colleges, whether it is pharmacy college or engineering college or nursing college or any type of college, can we think of having virtual laboratory so that the experiments can be demonstrated, students can have hands-on experience. For example, there are certain mobile clinics where through computer-assisted mechanisms, a doctor can do operations. They can put stitches. In other words, before they handle a human being, they'll be handling a model. So virtual laboratory is going to stay, and we have to encourage this. Robotics also play a very important role in it. So the NEP is going to focus the development of all these issues. Then emphasis to disruptive technology. In fact, I am very much fond of this particular terminology because 21st century is known for disruption. Whatever was existing in 20th century has been shattered into pieces, whether it is economy, whether it is the healthcare system or education system or technology or science. Whatever we thought in 20th century as the panacea, now has become, what should I say, zero level. Now everything is coming out with a new approach. Hence we call it as disruptive approach or disruptive technology. I'll give only one example. For example, earlier we had mobile as separate, telephone as separate, recording as separate, video as separate, as well as the computer as separate and all. But one mobile has brought all those things into one. Today, everything is nothing but a disruptor, a new technology is emerging. Thus, whatever we think of today, particularly the artificial intelligence, the machine language, as well as 3D, etc., they are going to revolutionize the education system, particularly in professional education. And the using of digital technology at all levels, whether it is academics or administration or research or governance. Then provision of digital tools and softwares is going to be, there will be a lot of demand. So the engineering colleges as well as software industries will have a challenge for next 10 years to provide the softwares and tools that is required. I give only one example. Recently, in the Innovative Council, one award was given to a Cochin-based or Kerala-based entrepreneur who wanted to come out with a app for the discussion of our webinar, which is almost equivalent or better than Zoom. That clearly indicates that there is a need today to go in for this disruptive approach in order to help the innovation in higher education by using the digital platforms. Then vocational education, it was given a stepmotherly attitude all these days. It was taken as it has taken a seat as second-rate citizen. But this national education policy says whether it is a liberal education or technical education or professional education or vocational education, all of them come under one group known as holistic education. This is one of the important hallmarks of the national education policy. Use of technology, as I told you already, in all walks of life, and even disadvantaged groups, whether rich or poor, rural or urban, or Divyangs, everyone should have access to these tools. Then e-content in regional languages. Now, each language through which education can be disseminated in India. There are more than 600 plus dialects or languages in India, with more than 20 recognized languages in India. Thus, India has a rich heritage of languages. In fact, communication is one of the indications to say how civilization and culture of a country is. So India, from that point of view, is the richest country in the world, having maximum number of languages. So digitally equipped schools, colleges, teachers, and students are going to be the order of the day. Now, possible modules for professional education. Now, let me come to the professional education as such. At present, we have got a medical college, we have got a dental college, nursing college, then Ayush colleges, Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha, Unani, and whatnot. And various other allied health sciences, namely the paramedical subjects, as well as physiotherapy and so on. At present, we have got around 550 medical colleges with 80,000 seats and 26,000 PG seats. You can imagine, for a country of 130 crores, we have got only 80,000 seats in MBBS and 26,000 PG when we want more of specialists. And in dental, we have got 315 colleges with 27,000 undergraduate seats and 6,000 postgraduate seats. In fact, it is oversaturated. That is the reason why there is a need to divert that particular number into the other health professional education. Probably national education policy through its multi-faculty system is going to address this issue. Coming to nursing, for a population of 130, naturally require more of nursing faculty as well as nurses to don the mantle in healthcare sector, whether it is rural or urban or military or any other ground. At present, you have got around 2,000 nursing colleges with around 1 lakh seats. Probably there is a need to double it. And only 13,000 PG seats. Again, there is a need to double this. Then GNM, where there are more than GNM schools, around 3,000 plus GNM schools, and ANM schools around 2,000. Let us see what is going to happen to them later. In Ayurveda, where there are 425 Ayurvedic colleges with 35,000 UG seats and 4,500 PG seats. In other words, there is a need to enhance the number as well as the intake of the UG and PG seats in these professional colleges. Then what will be the approach? According to national education policy, if you believe the philosophy of what is envisaged here, probably just like the American system, the likelihood of first year or first 2 years could be a common year for all the professionals. There is no clarity on this, but there is a discussion on this. Can there be 1 or 2 years common to all the health profession education? Afterwards, they will diversify. But it is not taken any shape yet. But this is only a loud thinking as per the essence of the national education policy. Afterwards, the diversification to medical, dental, nursing, physiotherapy, Ayush, UG programs is likely to take place. Then already the National Medical Commission has come out with centralized exit exam for MBBS program. This is going to be a reality as per NEP for dental also, nursing also, physiotherapy also. And the government of India has already established an agency called National Testing Agency. At present, it is involved in conducting the NEET JEE and others. Probably that will be the agency which will be conducting almost all the entrance tests and also the exit examinations for all the professional courses. So UG exit examination itself will become a PG entrance test. So these are all the changes that are likely to take place because of national education policy in another 1 or 2 years. Very important aspect that we not to address the requirement of the Indian scenario, particularly from the point of healthcare at rural areas. The present leadership has come out with a novelty, namely community healthcare workers program. That means any student, any basic graduate or any PG, UG PG graduate of nursing or dental or Ayush, they can undergo 6 months training program in community health, and they can become community health workers so that they can disseminate primary health care at the rural level. This is going to be a reality as per national education policy. Then competency-based curriculum. The curriculum of the healthcare sector is going to be totally changed. Already in case of MBBS, it has been changed from 2019-20. In all other cases also, we are going to expect what is known as competency-based curriculum, where the importance is given not only to knowledge and skills, but mainly to competence and attitude and communication skills. Because communication skills of healthcare workers, when they communicate with patients, relatives or attendants, but become very, very important. Now we have realized the importance of communication in this COVID era, because there is a communication gap between the patient, the doctor, as well as the attendants. So communication skills in healthcare education is going to take a very, very important dimension. Then coming to nursing education, a very paradigm shift is GNM. The present GNM, as I told you, there are more than 3,000 GNM colleges with 1.2 lakh admission. All these GNM programs and GNM colleges are going to be closed by 2020-21. All of them will be elevated as BSc nursing colleges. In other words, colleges of nursing. So nursing colleges will become 5,000, or there's likelihood of enhancement in the number of the nursing colleges, either because of the merger or because of the elevation of GNM colleges into the nursing colleges. Very important note that I would like to tell all the delegates is, all these days for nursing education, only science PUC students were allowed. But from 2021 onwards, we are going to allow also the art students. So those who have studied PUC arts or commerce, they are also eligible along with trained students to pursue nursing education. So this is a very important paradigm shift. This is going to open a new window for all the students who are having aversion towards science subjects at +2 level to come back to the healthcare sector after +2, because of this particular opening of the windows for art students. And there is likelihood, because geriatric population is going to increase, cancer patients are increasing, and lifestyle disorders are on the increase. So there is a need for the nurses who can give nursing care at home level or at institution level or at old age home or at geriatric home or at the pediatric homes. So there will be introduction of nursing practitioners course. This is going to be a novelty. Then short-term training programs to enhance skills at periodic intervals is a must, because every 3 years or 5 years, the technology is going to increase. Then already Government of India, Cabinet has passed a resolution to constitute a national council for allied health sciences. That's going to be reality under national education policy, and that will be functioning as the professional standard setting body for allied health sciences. All these days, there are only state councils, but there is no national council. There is likelihood of a national council under the aegis of the Higher Education Commission. The National Rehabilitation Council was a very standalone independent institution. Now it's also going to come under the one umbrella for health science. Then this is a major shift that is going to happen in the healthcare sector. The change is biomedical science and biomedical engineering is going to play a very, very important role in health science education and healthcare sector. All these days, the biomedical engineering was in engineering colleges, and biomedical science was again in science or engineering colleges. The medical colleges or healthcare colleges never bothered about these two important sectors. But remember one thing, whatever the change that has taken place in the tertiary healthcare sector today is mainly because of the contribution of biomedical science and biomedical engineering. So National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes the importance of multi-faculty education to the health science sector, particularly through biomedical science and biomedical engineering, along with humanities and social sciences. There is a need to integrate transdisciplinary approach between science, technology, medicine, and healthcare, and also humanities. Only then you are going to have holistic health profession education, which can cater to the needs, not only to the well-being of human being, but also the psychological well-being and social well-being of a human being. Then, if you look at the scenario today, all the sophisticated diagnostic tools and therapeutic tools of medicine and healthcare are contributions of not medicine, not healthcare sector, but because of physics, chemistry, biotechnology, computation technology, information technology, and STEM. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So whatever the equipments that you have today, MRI, CT scan, PET scan, digital X-ray, dry chemistry, green chemistry, clinical laboratories, then RT-PCR, genetic-based tests, gene therapy, operation tools, ventilators, dialysis, heart-lung missions. You quote any mission that is happening today, that is available today, there are all contributions of the biomedical engineering and biomedical science contributions. In other words, if you ignore them, then medical fraternity or health science fraternity or health science education is not going to improve. So there is a need to merge and bring them under holistic approach. Look at the emerging aspects. We have ignored all these aspects. So unless we give importance to it, national education policy, that's the reason why it says multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach is needed. There cannot be a standalone institution. Look at the approach. Nanomedical biotechnology is going to be reality. Intervention radiology technology is going to be reality. And whole body scanning technology is going to be reality. Dialysis technology at the sophisticated level is going to be a reality. We are going to have artificial blood and artificial body fluids, etc. for days to come. Stem cell therapy is going to be reality. Gene therapy is going to be reality. Laser guided technology is already in existence. Introduction of scopies, robotic surgery, all of them have become realities. It mainly because of the amalgamation and integration of biomedical engineering and biomedical sciences to the medical sciences. Without that, medical science or health professional education would not have developed so much as it has developed today. And molecular marker diagnosis. Today, COVID era, we are seeing. And what is the basis for the diagnosis as to whether a person is suffering from COVID or not? One is X-ray or CT scan on one side, but they are not conclusive. Whereas the conclusive test is RT-PCR test for COVID-19 or TrueNAT test. What does it indicate? That indicates the importance of biomedical science and biomedical engineering. That is the reason why I told you that the entire medical education and health profession is going to have a seesaw change for days to come, particularly for the next 10 years. Then, once we have so much of paradigm shift, then it is going to open a new window called a plethora of the paramedical subjects for +2 students or undergraduate students. In other words, you may have BSc program in already they are there. We can have more number of such programs in optometry, in dialysis center, in operation theater management, in CT scan, whatnot. Everywhere there can be a scope for an additional degree award, so that it will address the employment, at the same time it address the skill-based development. So fellowship programs in medical, dental, nursing, pharmacy students is going to be reality, apart from the regular PG degree that an individual wants. In other words, it is a continuous learning. Continuous learning is possible only when you have a certification program, STTP program, and fellowship program. And courses on artificial intelligence, vision language, 3D, and robotics to medical students and health science institutions is a must nowadays. It is no longer a domain of only engineering. It has to be part and parcel of the health science education. That's what the national education policy envisages. Clinical research. If you look at the type of the Nobel prizes that has come to the fields of physiology, you will appreciate majority of the prizes in the field of medicine and physiology is won by the physicists, the chemists, the biotechnologists, and the cell biologists. You can go through the history of the Nobel prizes. What does it indicate? The doctors are yet to involve themselves into the research. So there is a need for the merger of the clinical science clinical knowledge with that of the biomedical knowledge and biomedical engineering. Then only you are going to have a new way for the healthcare sector. Then omics, proteomics and genomics. For the first time, we have deciphered the genomics of the human beings and various, there is a project in the world going on as to how many genes are there in the human body and so on. Still, for next 100 years, there is so much of scope for understanding the importance of genetic mechanism. So bioinformatics, it is nothing but in silico laboratory or dry laboratory technology through which, through reverse protein engineering, reverse engineering, we can study what is likely to happen at molecular level. So all these subjects must and should come into the healthcare sector as an integrated component to the health profession education. Then biomedical science and engineering has to be merged. Then drug design and delivery. The pharmacy colleges should note this. Drug design and delivery, not only at the macro level, either the pill or injection, it may go to a level of site-directed delivery through a carrier molecule is going to be reality. Gene therapy is going to be reality. Vaccine production. See, now in COVID era, everyone is expecting or hoping that a vaccine will come. Who will give a vaccine until there is research? There are 6 to 10 candidates, but who is going to come first? Who is going to come late? And who is going to be efficient? Until there is research in it, it's not possible. And that is possible only when the biologists, the chemists, the physicists, the engineering aspects, because production is dependent upon the engineers. And then efficacy, the doctors have to say whether it is efficient or not. Immunologists. In other words, without integrated approach, you can't think of health profession education in 21st century. Hence, nutraceuticals and biomolecules for wellness again is going to play an important role. This is where the drug design and delivery, nutraceuticals and biomolecules, and the nutrition and dietetics. That's where the pharmacy people will have a new role to play in healthcare sector. Then there is scope for dual consultancy. All these days, we never accepted that telemedicine is going to be reality. People used to say telemedicine cannot be accepted as a means, and it cannot be used as a means to purchase medicine. But today, MCR, the agency itself, the higher education, the MCA itself has permitted that telemedicine is one of the alternative systems to get the consultancy when COVID is pandemic is there. So online drug delivery is a reality now. Differential diagnosis and treatment methods. But today, no one is happy with one diagnosis. They always used to say whether this is right or wrong. So with artificial intelligence means with the subjecting to digital technology, we can get second opinion within 24 hours from any corner of the world. That is the importance of artificial intelligence and digital technology. And integration of pathies. Gone are the days of separating homeopathy, allopathy, then naturopathy or Ayurveda and so on. It is high time that we should sit together and say what is good of all these systems and integrate into a holistic medical system that is expected out of this national education policy. Then sustainable development modules. Wellness of the human being, not the disease, should be the approach. Prevention and control modules should be the approach, not the treatment only. Then treatment and rehabilitation comes later. Then geriatric and critical care is going to be the reality. Hence, we should have more and more programs on this. That's what national education policy aims at. So what are the challenges? I've told the rosy picture, but what are the challenges? It is very easy to say, but is it practicable? Multiple entries and exit as per the national education policy, which is there for liberal education, may not be possible in health profession education. Then how to create space for social sciences and humanities, engineering and science within the existing straight schedule of health profession education. Already the program is a 4.5 years in medicine, 4 years of nursing and so on. How to integrate? So there is a possibility of removing certain redundancy, adding certain new things with a major and minor concept, with a choice-based credit system where the student can choose the major, which is core, at the same time ancillary, which is built on his creativity and innovative aspect. Then how to bring colleges under one umbrella. In other words, we say, it's very easy to say, remove the word pharmacy college, remove the word medical college. Then how to function, how to make them functional? Is it that national education policy expects them to come under one umbrella as a cluster? For example, our medical college, dental college, nursing college, physiotherapy college, as well as pharmacy college and in engineering college, all of them come under one umbrella to have a multidisciplinary approach where everything goes on. where a student can choose the branches depending upon his choice. Is it that what national education policy expects? Let us wait and see. Then do we expect integration of different types of HPE colleges, including arts, science, commerce colleges, STEM colleges as one unit, or to follow cluster concept? According to me, I am an optimist and a realist. I envisage that cluster concept is going to be a reality. So you should aim at becoming a cooperative model where all of those come together under one umbrella. So that there is just like an Indian scenario where there is central government and state government and a federal system. So probably we are aiming at this concept of the cluster concept. In that way, the present deemed university model, which is there in India, is going to be a real model for the healthcare sector. So that under one umbrella, number of institutions come together. So they should have emphasis on transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and multi-faculty approaches. But who is going to answer? Only time will answer these questions. Then autonomy to all colleges, if it is given overnight, probably it is not going to be given overnight. Only assessment accreditation is going to decide this. But if it is given in a mass scale, it may lower the quality. That is the apprehension. Then it may bring about commercialization also without quality. So we have to aim at these two aspects. We should be very cautious. Then tuition fee may go up because when we bring more and more colleges under one umbrella, the maintenance cost will be higher. Naturally, the cost will go up. So affordability is going to be crucial, and it will be the poor people may be the casualty in this particular respect. So the government has to think as to how best we can bring the merger of these colleges under one umbrella or cluster concept under one umbrella without affecting the present tuition fee rates or the cost effectiveness. Then coordination. All these colleges under different ministries. Minister of Health and Family Welfare looks after healthcare sector. Ayush is a separate ministry. Science and Technology is a separate ministry. Education is a separate ministry. Technology is a separate ministry. Statistics is a separate ministry. So first of all, there is a need to integrate and bring coordination amongst these departments first. When they agree, 50% of the problem will be solved. Okay, this is my realistic approach. Then it is a challenge to basic health care and primary health care and education modules. So for the next 10 years, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please remember that we are going to have a very challenging days to come, and we have to approach this with with a lot of determination, with positive attitude to see that 21st century is going to be realized with this national education policy. Then to conclude, let me tell you, this is my pet slide, which I always use. People who have listened to me earlier also may say Dr. Jairaj is using the same slide, because I cannot get a better slide than this. The reason is this: we are celebrating 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhiji. The Mahatma Gandhiji, the father of our nation, and who led the freedom movement to liberate India without any bloodshed. Thus, we have to give a befitting tribute to him. And the tribute is, Mahatma Gandhi said, education should address three important H, namely, education to head means knowledge, education to hand means skills, and education head and hand together will become competency. And then the last component is very, very important, is education to heart, namely values. And this national education policy, throughout its pages, emphasizes two things: Indian tradition, Indian heritage, and Indian value system. At present, the Indian value system is a casualty in the present context of westernized type of education in India. I'm not against westernized system, but I'm against a system where there is no value. Value system, without value system, education is nothing but a body, without a heart, without brain. So if you want a holistic body with a wellness, you require value system. And this national education policy emphasizes values through and through. That is the reason why I said, if you implement national education policy in letter and spirit, with all determination, we'll be addressing the head, hands, and heart approach of Mahatma Gandhiji. Then that will be a befitting tribute to the Mahatma. Let us be optimistic. Let us keep our eyes and ears open and flexible. And I always believe, where there is a will, there is a way. And let us go with a pledge. We can and we will. We can and we will. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Jairaj sir, for the wonderful session on medical education. in perspective of national education policy. We are extremely thankful for you for providing us valuable insights